by Children of the Corn freestyle. Emily didn't start out in the town of Gatlin. No, she was saved by Isaac. Croner was his name. He saved her from he who walks behind the roads. Let's rewind time in the summer of 1989. Emily was traveling with her parents to the town named Gatlin. You see, her parents were visiting old relatives that Emily had never heard of or from. Deep within her heart, she resented her parents. She blamed them for just about everything, especially her newfound low self-esteem. An argument erupted once more between her parentals as Emily blocked them out. They are such fools. I wish they'd just die. Emily's malicious thoughts etched a smile upon her face. The car screeched to a halt as her father's fumbled to deliver a strike to her mother's face. Emily's stomach churned butterflies at her father's ministrations. Tears threatened to stain her face before her father started the car up once more. Silence passed among them as they closed in on Gatlin. Outsiders closed in upon our land, surely having to be dealt with at once. Isaac and Malachi watched the outsiders drive on, knowing fully well their fate would be sealed in Gatlin. I see God have provided us with an abundant sacrifice to harvest season. Malachi voice loud. Indeed he has, but God mentioned nothing of the girl. Isaac responded, indeed the girl did perplex him in all his visions. A girl had been spoken of, but had never been seen. Was she the maiden that God spoke of to him, and a past dream come to him at last? Emily had curled into a ball and silently cried herself to sleep in the backseat. Awakening hours later, Emily immediately knew things were off. The car was primarily abandoned, although the keys remained in the ignition. Upon further examination, Emily noticed a sign welcoming travelers to Gatlin. Emily's heart raced her with fear and panic. The more she came to realize she was alone and had to be strong hesitantly, Emily peeled open the door and outstretched a hand to the vacant pavement below. As her hand landed in something gooey and warm, Emily brought her up to meet blood. Emily glanced down at the street slab and froze in terror as she gazed at a pool of blood. She jolted and slammed the door, locking the car, imprisoning herself inside the inferno of the car. It would have been her luck that Emily was stranded, and even though she was of age in her teens, what was she expected to do? She may have resented her parents, but she depended on them to lead her in moments like this. Tears welled as realization hit that she was now as alone as she had felt her entire childhood. A thud startled Emily as she looked up. Standing just outside the vehicle was a man attired in black and with orangish red hair, adorned in a kitchen knife. Emily froze in terror as the man spoke. I have come to give you peace. Emily found it difficult to believe this man. She mouthed the word how, as she couldn't seem to muster any actual words. God has sent me to deliver you your destiny. With this final sentence, the car was surrounded by boys accompanied with weapons of any sort. Emily eyed any possibilities of escape within seconds of her search. She caught a glimpse of a young boy standing atop a nearby building, giving hand gestures that the boys seemed to be obeying. She came back to reality as this boy gave a sign that obviously meant destroy. As the boys attacked the vehicle without mercy. Please spare me, Emily begged, as the man from before ripped her from her car, and as she smashed a window. Emily stared up at him with pleading eyes as the teen gazed back up at the boy for orders. The boy seemed to hesitate as he followed his hands and stared what seemed like eternity before he turned and disappeared. Moments later, the boy was elbowing his way through the crowd. The boys made a way for him as he examined the girl. Malachi, release her. Malachi did as told and released the young girl. Emily backpedaled until she felt the heated metal of the car and slunk down against it to curl into a ball as she attempted to grasp what was happening. Isaac, why? God gave her to us. We mustn't fail him. Malachi argued with Isaac. Enough, Malachi. Yes, God has given her to us, but not for sacrifice. And no, God has given me a vision. We must save her until the next harvest. Isaac spat back on at Malachi, silencing him. Instantly, Isaac approached the terrified girl and kneeled before her to get a better look. Isaac looked pleased as he instructed Malachi to deliver her to the church. Emily, feeling as if she must obey and let him do what he wished. Malachi's grip never faltered as he guided her down several blocks and the serpent church. Her heart seemed to beat in her throat and gut the moment her little body passed the threshold. Never before had Emily had the displeasure to experience such fret over her well-being. Just what was going to happen to her? What on earth could have become of her parents? Though Emily had the sinking feeling they had already met their demise, so many questions swarmed her head as she was being led to her possible doom. No. Malachi had led Emily into an abandoned church, built and adorned with corn husks and vandalized paintings. Malachi released his grip on Emily's arm only to shove her to the ground. Sobbing, Emily did as told. I asked for forgiveness, for I smiled. Emily started through her sobbing. I have sinned and wish to join you once more hand in hand. Emily concluded abruptly. Isaac graced him, his demeanor stoic for his age, as he soaked in his God's presence. Blurry pictures embedded themselves into Emily's mind, and she trembled in fear of this God as it bore its own image and demanded respect from Emily. She tried squeezing her eyes shut, for no fruit to bear. Don't look away. Feast your eyes upon your new God and let him in. They want you too, Malachi. Isaac was brutal once more, forcing Malachi to pry Emily's forest green globes in order to take in his essence. Emily winced as Malachi's hand buried and yanked on her dirty blonde rocks. Whimpering, Emily opened her once clenched eyes and gazed deep into those of he who walks behind the roads. Initially, Emily couldn't process the overwhelming fright it did give her, but she was soon overcome by this demon. Her consciousness hazed over, and all coherent thoughts became foggy as the demon wove Emily's personality to make her more malleable and agreeable. With this, the demon and had forgiven any of Emily's sins, and she was now welcomed on to Gatlin. The demon dissipated almost as sudden as it arrived, leaving Isaac, Malachi, and her alone in the church. Emily felt renewed rush, no doubt from the copious amounts of adrenaline pumping through her, currently no longer trembling. Emily's entire being seemed to make peace with her new surroundings and under the demon's influence. It was as if Emily was familiar with this place. She seemed to have been gifted an eternal compass of a town, despite never being here before. Emily almost forgot she was even being manhandled by Malachi. However, Malachi never felt the desire to cease his brutal actions as he lifted her with her hair to a stand, lifted her by her hair to a stand, turning Emily to face him. He gazed within her eyes. Now that you have been accepted, you must never leave, for if you choose to stray off the path of faith and go against he who walks behind the roads, you will suffer a fate worse than death, and you will walk among him. Malachi warned, making the message clear. Emily had no intentions to break, said the vow, given a nod of understanding. Then Malachi finally ceased his violent ways. Isaac, too, appeared pleased by Emily's obedience and motion. Malachi toward him. After a few hushed exchanges, Malachi and Isaac shifted their attention back into Emily. I will leave you in the hands of Malachi until God tells me what is become of you here. Again with this, Emily heard him speak of her being of importance, but of what importance was she? She wasn't quite grown, but she was a child either. Emily and Isaac stared coldly into each other's souls until Isaac broke first. At first, Emily thought about not inquiring about the whereabouts of her parents. She had to have known deep down that they were gone. It wasn't until Isaac finished allotting Malachi his latest task and took a few steps toward the church's exit did she muster the courage to ask one final time, "What did ever happen to my parents?" Emily asked just but once more. Isaac hesitated before he replied. Emily's outspoken question. "They're in the corn," Isaac responded. "Your parents are in the corn," Isaac responded, before leaving Emily to unravel what he meant as Malachi lingered behind in case attempted to scram wham bam. Emily moved to take a seat at the first pew closet to the congregation. It was as if, by a miracle, her prayers had been answered to some degree. Her suffering was at an end in a parental sense. Poor unfortunate soul had absolutely zero idea of the amount of suffering would be in store for her at the hands of this cult.